Hello everybody, this is K10 coming at you with a review of Call of Duty Vanguard multiplayer. Now this review will be quite simple, sweet, and it'll kind of give you an overview of what they've added to the game. This game is also 2 years old, I want to mention, and the community seems to be quite small for it. The games do take quite a long time to get into, but whenever you get into a game, I think you can have a lot of fun with this one. Now, let's start off with the maps. The maps include Berlin, Bokage, Castle, Das Haus, Decoy, Demyansk, Desert Siege, Dome, Eagle's Nest, Gavutu, Hotel Royale, Numa Numa, Oasis, Red Star, Subpens, and Tuscan. All these maps included into the game fall into the bigger size to medium size. Berlin is in Berlin. It's semi 3-lane, consists of a power position in the middle, and that's where the B flag is located. The B flag in that mode specifically divides the map in half, and those two buildings, the rubble in between them, divides the map into two. Bokage is a map that is very dark, and it's like in a forest, in a little quaint village kind of thing. It's very small. The layout is very odd. The first time I played it, I remember I was like, where am I supposed to go, kind of deal. It was hard to figure out what route to run, but it's alright. Castle is a remake of the World at War Castle map. Das Haus, this is a very small map, similar to something like Shoot House from Modern Warfare 2019. 3-lane map. There's a lot of symmetry, but it's not completely symmetrical. Decoy, this is another, I would say it's a medium-sized map, but it's very symmetrical, and it's set in sort of a Nuketown-esque location where it's like a testing facility for different weapons. Demyansk, a very big map, very sniper heavy. You have the church in the middle that you can get on top of, and it's a very strong power position. It's hard to get people out of there. It's hard to get people out of that little spawn area where the church is. It's a very odd map because it's not symmetrical in like any way. One side clearly has a big advantage over the other, especially in modes like domination. The people who have the church side generally win the match because the church overlooks the B flag and the A flag is behind the church, so you have a very solid like spawn point there. Desert Siege, this map, it's just that it's gigantic. It's very symmetrical, but it's just way too big. Now, Dome, this is a remake from the World at War Dome. It plays pretty good. It's a very small map. I quite enjoy it. Next is Eagle's Nest. This is based off of the Eagle's Nest location in the real World War II. Very interesting map. A little bit too big. It is 3-lane. I did enjoy it, especially with the 18v18 mode. It is very fun. Gavutu, very big map. Only played this in 18v18. It's way too gigantic for anything 6v6. It's a good domination map because you have that big carrier that splits the map in half. It's also a very good search and destroy map and pretty okay on hardpoint as well. Hotel Royale. Now this map, it's perfect sized in my opinion. It's medium-ish, has a lot of destructible environments. This was the map where people really figured out what the destructible environments really meant for the game. A lot of stuff can be shot out and a lot of stuff can be destroyed, so by the time the match ends, almost everything is completely erased from the map. But whenever it starts, you have a lot more cover and it's harder to see people, but overall it's a pretty good map. Numa Numa. Now this one is not symmetrical in any way. It's basically like a big circle, and then you have this area in the middle where everyone wants to go. It played pretty okay in Patrol and Hardpoint, and even in Domination it was alright. Oasis. Now this map is almost perfectly symmetrical, but it is also way too big. It's also very similar in style to Desert Siege. I actually got them confused a lot whenever I was first playing this game. They are very similar. It's hard to tell the difference sometimes. They're aesthetically almost the same, so... Now, Red Star was one of the beta maps for this game. It was very fun. I enjoyed it. It's a little too big. It's not very symmetrical at all. You have that two big power positions, one on one side of the map and one on the other. One of them is not looking at the other, so you can't have like a sniper battle, or you can't counter the other side. So it's very hard to break people out of that area. Subpens. This one is a very interesting map. You're in like a submarine base, which they've done this in other World War II games that they've made, especially Call of Duty and even other video games. So it's not too unique of a map design layout wise, but it's very symmetrical and I enjoy it quite a bit. It was also good for going for long shots specifically, but other than that, it was way too big. Lastly, we got Tuscan. Now this map, I remember it was very odd because it's not symmetrical in any way, and it's also has a lot of power positions that are really hard to get people out of, and a lot of head glitches that overlook big parts of the map. It's overall, in my opinion, probably one of the worst maps in the game. Not just because of the size. I think the size of a lot of other maps makes them bad, but this map is just, it's good medium sized map, and it had some interesting gunplay opportunities, especially for SMGs. But just the way the map was laid out, in my opinion, wasn't conducive to Call of Duty's gameplay. Now, they did add quite a few maps, but they didn't add too many maps in this game overall. Mostly, the ones that I remember were Shipment, Radar, which is Dome from Modern Warfare 3, and they added Sphere, which was another small map. That was kind of interesting. It was Old Western themed, and it had a lot of interesting ways to traverse the map. Lastly, you have the perks in this game. I want to go over a few of them. Mainly, I want to go over the perk 1 slot because I think it was probably one of the better ways to balance it. In this tier, you had stuff like Fortified, which was basically EOD. You had Overkill, you had Ghost, and you had Serpentine, which Serpentine, basically, if you're running and you got shot, you would take a little bit less damage. It wasn't anything crazy. And I don't think it would stop you from sprinting, so you could continue to move even if you got hit. This is probably one of the most perfectly balanced class systems in the whole Call of Duty series, even including Black Ops 2, in my opinion. This game had some really good perk balance. The next perk slot, you had Tracker, Radar, High Alert, Engineer, Forward Intel, and Piercing Vision, and Intuition, which was included in Season 1. A lot of these were really interesting, and you had to make a choice. You could either see footsteps, or maybe you wanted to see people on the radar, maybe you wanted to have that little high alert notification, but that was countered by cold-blooded. So there was a lot of interesting things that you could do with this perk system. And then lastly, in the third tier, you had stuff like Double Time, Demolition, Ninja, Lightweight, Tactician, Scavenger. You had a lot of choice between which ones you wanted, and again, I think it was perfectly balanced. I generally went with like Ninja or Lightweight. I think those are probably the best out of all of these perks here, just because Lightweight did make you run like 30% faster, which is significant. Most of the time they make Lightweight a little bit worse than that, but in this game I think it actually competed with Ninja a lot of the times, depending on if you were playing Respawn or Search and Destroy. And lastly, I'd like to talk about the kill streaks. These were very interesting. A lot of the kill streaks were on the ground and not up in the air. There were a couple that were in the air, like the ball turret gunner and the strafing run, but other than that, all these were on the ground for the most part. Some of them were missile barrages and stuff like that, so you kind of had some variety there, but a lot of these were ground streaks. A couple of them, like the UAV, were in the air, obviously. Of course, with this game, the UAVs were actually really hard to kill because you had no lock-on rocket launchers, so you couldn't just lock on to the things. You had to actually like aim for them and actively go after the kill streak that you're trying to destroy. And I really enjoyed that you had to actively put yourself at risk while destroying something, so it wasn't just like a free 100 XP. Yeah, overall, I've just kind of been going through this and being more informative with this review, but I want to get some personal opinion there too. In my opinion, this game failed for a multitude of reasons, mainly the fact that the game had a lot of issues in terms of its multiplayer's balance, specifically with the weapons. So if I remember correctly, the STG was super powerful and the MP40 was run all the time by everyone who was really sweaty. Towards the later part of the game, they added the EM1, I believe, from Advanced Warfare, and this gun was just absolutely insane. Just destroyed everyone. It was like a laser weapon, and it was way too powerful whenever they put it into the game. And it kind of killed off the game, in my opinion, which was a terrible way to end off Vanguard. This game also suffered from the fact of adding stuff to the game. If this game came out and it just stayed the way it was at launch, I think it would have been a lot better than if they kept on adding to it. A lot of the content they added wasn't enough, and whenever it did come out, it was either poor or it added more bugs and glitches than was already in the game. Whenever the game first came out, it was very glitchy, very buggy. I remember this. They never fixed it until months and months later. There was also a lot of problems whenever they added specifically ship miss. They added a incendiary grenade, and that grenade was way too powerful. It would shake your screen, it would produce a bunch of smoke, it would do a ton of damage. It was the best tactical we've ever seen in Call of Duty history. All this is to say is that the seasonal content model, in my opinion, absolutely destroyed Vanguard, and they should have really thought about how they were adding content and when they were doing it, because I don't think they added it at all strategically. They just were syncing as soon as the game came out, and I think they kept on syncing as the game went on. I do think at the start of the game, though, it was very fun. It was something new. The maps were overall bad, I would say. They weren't enjoyable either. I think the only maps that were good, Das House, Shipment, and Dome. And that was literally the only 3 maps that I found enjoyable. Also, many of the guns in this game were very bad, and they never got buffed. I'm specifically thinking of the sniper rifles. In this game, the sniper rifles were absolutely useless. They had such high ADS times. Just to get into the scope, you would die as soon as you got into it. They didn't have any sort of buffs throughout the year of the game being out. And overall, in my opinion, whenever a Call of Duty game doesn't have good snipers, you lose a lot of the community. And lastly, I just want to have a discussion with you guys in the comments section. If you guys have any thoughts on this game, did you guys enjoy it? Would you guys want a Call of Duty Vanguard 2? Let me know all that in the comments below. Hope you have a good day, and peace.